Welcome back. Now August, the month for the BRICS Summit to be held in South Africa, is coming like a fast freight train. And South Africa, of course, faces this conundrum if Russian President Vladimir Putin arrives, because it is legally obliged to arrest him on an arrest warrant issued by the International Criminal Court. Now this comes as African presidents, including President Cyril Ramaphosa, are due to head to Ukraine and Russia on a mission to try and seek peace. To discuss, we're joined by conflict resolution expert and director at RiskRecon, Kingsley Makhubela. Thank you for being with us in studio. So ostensibly, this mission that could happen sometime this week is a peace mission. But do you think, from the perspective of Cyril Ramaphosa, our president, this may be an opportunity to convince the Russian president maybe to stay at home? There are reports that we will try to convince him to join the BRICS Summit virtually.
Well, thank you, Francis. Vladimir Putin is a member of the BRICS Summit, and with all the benefits accrued to all members.
Yes.
And the summit are usually attended by heads of state. The summit is a meeting of heads of state, so the expectation is that he would attend. There's nothing that bars him from attending. The expectation is that he would attend the summit.
So, but do you think Ramaphosa will try and change that? Or would he leave that as the status quo that you're talking about, that those expectations are so strong?
The challenge is that our government hasn't been quite open about this matter. There's a lot of news circulating in the media space that he's considering asking Xi Jinping to host this. Yeah. And the government came out to say, no, the summit is still happening here. But they're not answering the question as to, are they really trying to negotiate with China to host the summit? And they haven't said yes or no about that. And that's where the challenge is. Will you convince a member state not to exercise his own rights? It's a very serious challenge.
And do you agree with those who believe that President Putin, being himself, will probably arrive? He won't make this easy for us.
Of course he would arrive, because if he doesn't attend the summit, it will be a serious humiliation. Being a fully fledged member, for him,
yeah,
and Russia, being a fully fledged member.
And he would essentially be giving in to the West in a sense.
He's not a signatory to the Rome Statute. He's not obliged and bound by the decision that are made by the Rome Statute. So the ICC has no legal authority over the Russian Federation.
If we don't arrest him, do you agree it will be an international incident, potentially affecting our reputation with other countries profoundly?
Not an international incident. It will be a serious challenge domestically, because we've migrated the Rome Statute into our domestic law. The warrant of arrest is as good as having been issued by the court of law in South Africa. And I'm not comfortable with the executive defying the courts, because we're starting to open a Pandora. We're starting to create a dictatorship. So the executive would disregard all the laws that are passed by the courts or decisions of the courts. My own view is that we should have long withdrawn from the Rome Statute, because it has become obsolete. It serves no purpose. The intention initially was good, but once you get big powers that are not signatory to the ICC, it becomes obsolete. Because remember, the ICC, it's not giving immunities to heads of state with issues with respect to genocide and war crime. And who is likely to commit war crimes? These are big powers that are producing huge weapons, but they're not part of it.
Okay, so, and many would agree with you, but the fact is right now, we can't get out of it in time anyway. So what do you do as President Ramaphosa? What do you do? Is there any way around this?
I think it has exposed lack of decision making. We knew that we were going to host this when the ICC issued out the warrant of arrest sometimes last year, November, December. And I think at that stage we should have deposited instrument for withdrawal from the ICC.
Would there have been enough time?
Oh, yes, there would have been enough time. I think you require, if I recall well, about 6 months to deposit instrument of withdrawal. Why didn't we do that?
Yeah. All right, final question. Some people accuse South Africa of trying to be friends with everyone. we still have deals with the West. We're still accepting money with certain or Northern Hemisphere countries, whatever you want to call them. But then, of course, we're part of BRICS, and BRICS may become a powerful force if Saudi Arabia joins, and the bank has Saudi oil money. So is South Africa being rational by trying to be friends with everybody? Certainly, BRICS may be something very powerful in the future, and then you want to align with the winners, as it were.
You know, people are coming up with a narrative of either or in this country. And this is the narrative that is emerging within the country. It's not the tyranny of either or. In international relations, you have friends with everyone, and you look at your interests. And I think in this case, we should have good relations with the West and good relations with China, good relations with the Russian Federation and other countries. That's how international relation is created. We can't, either we have relations with the Russians or we don't have relations with the Americans. I mean, that narrative, it's actually absurd.
Yeah.
Because China does business with the US. I mean, if you take, for instance, the microchip industry, $500 billion between the Americans and the Chinese. And it's a business that is going on.
Yeah, and who has all the
there's
dollars?
no one who's making noise about it.
Yeah.
So we can have our relation, excuse me, with both China, Russia, and the West. We're obliged to do it. We should do that.
All right, so we could have our cake and eat it, but this thorny issue in August not going away.
International relation, it's all up. It actually, that's why the theory on international relation is that it's a dog-eat-dog situation. If you don't define your interests and pursue your interests, people will define the interest for you, yeah, and they will impose it on you. And we are seemingly now, we are caving into this narrative that they have relations with the West because the Americans are going to impose sanctions. Americans are having more sanctions with China than anyone else, but they continue to do business with China.
All right, thank you so much for your time tonight and for coming into studio. That was conflict resolution expert Dr. Kingsley Makhubela.